and it's 5:30 on the dot. So this is the Ordinance Committee meeting for the town of Pittsfield. Today is Tuesday, September 28th. We have about an hour to discuss items before we go right into a Finance Committee meeting. We'll do a roll call. We have Catherine Ruth, our town manager, Councillor Pete Lodgedice, Councillor Jason Hall, Councillor and Mayor Heather Donahue here this evening. And I am not seeing any members of the general public joining us at this moment. Is that correct, Catherine? Catherine, you're muted. I know what you said, but you're muted.
Not muted,
There you go. Now I can hear you.
It's really strange. I'm not muted, but I had to speak right up and now it's going.
Okay, so can everybody hear Catherine and myself? Jason, we can hear you. Do you want to just say hi, Pete, to make sure that we can hear you as well?
I'm here.
Okay, great. Make sure we don't have any technology gremlins tonight. So number 2 under old business, we have the fireworks language reviewed for adoption as a separate fireworks ordinance. And that is what we were just asking about at our last ordinance committee meeting on 8/24. Jason put together a really comprehensive draft for the meeting to discuss, and then we sent that draft to the full council as an item for discussion. They had some things that they had concerns about, so we can address those concerns this evening and either augment it with new information or put it back to the full council if we think that it's ready for an actual public hearing. But we can go ahead and get started with that. Everybody has a copy of the document that Jason had prepared for us.
Yeah.
And I think,
Yes.
Jason, you were talking about, I went through and I pulled out my notes from the meeting, the council meeting. We discussed it. That was the September 7th meeting. Yeah, September 7th meeting. And as you said, this is what I had in my notes. Amanda had some questions about using the red flag warning. That's the language in the state ordinance. So that was just carried into this ordinance here. She pointed out that it's really something that's more of a coastal term and not necessarily used or familiar with people here in the inland area, and that would be better off using the burn permit type of high wind warnings and those type of guidelines as far as issuing permits. Mike had a preference to remove all the exemptions for schools and just refine the permit process, that MCI could have a single permit and have, instead of having an exemption. And that was it as far as what I had. A couple of the things that we had previously discussed was the dates and times, and really whether we wanted to institute some type of permitting process or keep things as they are, or just have dates or times without the permitting. So I guess that's the sticking point where we're at tonight, that we should try and kind of iron out. And you mentioned you have some towns that you had tried to contact, Jason.
Yeah, I did. I tried to contact Westbrook. They actually, they do have a permitting process, and it actually, if you go on their website, it's, instead of going to like the Maine State Fire Marshals, you click a link and it brings you to the Warden's Report. And I guess the Warden's Report is just a free version of ways that municipalities can obtain burn permits, but they can also obtain fireworks permits as well. The burn permits, that, from what I've read, I tried to contact the Warden's Report folks, and I was unsuccessful, but I think I can get a hold of them. I just didn't have the time to follow up. But I guess municipalities can opt in to this Warden's Report, and instead of, say, going through the Maine State Fire Marshal, which I think for a burn permit is like $7. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's $7 to obtain a burn permit. And maybe that's a revenue that the town needs or wants to keep. So maybe that's a good thing. But this Warden's Report is free of charge. I guess the town does a one-time $75 fee at the beginning of the year. And it then is free for the residents all year long, so that they can obtain their burn permits, but they can also obtain, if we opt in, I think what it does is gives you another pull down for fireworks. Unfortunately, Westbrook only does certain times and we're outside of that certain time frame. So it doesn't even give you the option if you're outside of the time frame. So I couldn't see what that procedure looks like, which is what I wanted to try to do. So I think if I contact either Westbrook or the warden's report, I can get what that literature is, and it might be a viable option. And it might take, is right here, and I think this is, yeah, this is Westbrook's website. It talks about, you know, public safety and keeping people out of, you know, the town office and not even really having anybody go in there to obtain these things. They can do it all online. They don't have to bother especially with us being shorthanded, like there's no interaction with the clerks at the front desk. There's, I don't know. I think it's a viable option. I unfortunately need to probably do some more research to get some more answers for us. But that's kind of in the around, that's kind of the gist of what I kind of came across.
Okay. I just pulled it up so I could look at it while you were talking, and it sounds like I just tried putting in West Gardner because the gentleman, there was some, oh, wait a minute. There was some, oh, here we go. So Skowhegan participates this.
Yeah, there's like
Says, no, your town's not active. If you
no,
if you
yeah, if you put in
use a town.
yeah, I did that. But it sounds, I mean, it's not, you know, at first it looked a little hokey, but there's a lot of municipalities that use it. And like you said, you just, you know, you click on the thing, I don't know, you can go Aroostook, Somerset, and then you got the fire danger levels right there. You can click that, find out. And then I did stumble upon, like, I think it was maybe it was, I don't know, Bodenham or someone like that. They just, if it was category like 3, 4, or 5, they wouldn't give you a fireworks ordinance or a permit for fireworks. So I think they kind of fall under like the burn permit type of literature, which I think is probably good for us and get away from the red warning type stuff altogether.
So this sounds like a real viable option. I wish we could get it to work so we could see it, because all the towns that I choose, even though they're listed there for Somerset County, it says your town is not listed yet. So I don't know why it's on there if it's not active.
Right.
Maybe it's a subscription that they need to do, but this sounds like a good option that would do all of those things, solve some of those problems we had around the permitting, as far as who's going to do it, how it's going to work, and things like that. So I think this bears more investigation on this item. I'd never heard of this.
Yeah, I hadn't either. I just typed in, you know, I just kind of typed in Maine fireworks permits, and it kind of dumped me to Westbrook. And then, you know, I went to their town office type page, and it gives you a link right to that and the permits that you need and whatnot. So I don't know, is there, does the town get revenue from burn permits, Catherine? Is that a benefit to the fire department?
We get revenue from the burn permits that are done online. So we'll get a check maybe 3 or 4 months into the next year for all of the online permits that are done. For the regular permits that are done by the fire department, it's traditionally been done by a number of officers, and they have an arrangement in which the people will go to their site, or they will meet the person, usually on the weekends. They're not issued from the town office because they understand when the fires, when there can be a fire issue based upon the conditions. In the past, in other towns, we have issued them in the office because the fire department was more, not full-time, but in the office more than our part-time department. So they would come in each day and tell us, today you can issue burn permits. These are the requirements. And then we would issue them all day long.
Right.
So if
Every-
you go to the website, the Warden's Report website, and you click on Kennebec County and then go to Waterville, Waterville is actually active in there. And a lot of the information that you click through it asks for is the same as the burn permit information, but it has the rules, like the terms and conditions for the Waterville Fire Rescue right there on the permitting site. And it tells you how the system is used and what the parameters are as far as how big it can be, open burning,
Right.
recreational cooking fires are regulated. And then you can click through to the actual permit part. It also gives you the class day as far as the fire danger for a particular day.
Right.
You can click on that and see that on the main DACF website.
So Waterville would be a good one for all of us to look at.
I mean, you can only get as far as like signing up, and then you have to have like an address and all that kinds of things for to go any further with it. But it might be
Right. And I'm not positive that Waterville participates in the fireworks aspect of it. The one that I know for a fact participates in both is Westbrook. So, but like you were saying, I mean, that's whatever they have in their ordinance might be helpful for us.
Okay.
I wish they had like an example, just like a dummy template type thing.
Yeah.
But I don't see that.
Well, it kind of it just has the permit, and then you can, it doesn't let you go. You have to fill it out to go any further.
Yeah,
But
but I think if we were able
it's a good
to,
find.
yeah, I think if we were able to contact them and talk to them, they could easily kind of send us an example.
Do you want to keep running with this, or do you want to pass it off, or what do you want to do?
I mean, I'm comfortable running with it. I know this past time, maybe I should have ran with the stuff a lot sooner. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty good option. Is it? Do you think it's something that we'll want to, if we go this route, would we want to make the burn permits and the fireworks thing we go all this route?
I'll talk to Bernard about this. I talked to him today,
Yeah.
but not about this specific item, and ask him what he thinks and have him go look around in the site. But if we're gonna do one, it seems like we would do the other too.
Yeah, and I think it mentions that, I bet Bernard is familiar with this. It seems like it said to talk to your local fire chief and a bunch of other stuff. I would be surprised if he hadn't seen it before.
He's likely seen it. I'll
yeah,
ask him what his
so-
opinion is of it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we will lose the, if we went this route, we will lose the revenue from the online burn permits. I don't know how much that is a year.
Is it the full $7 that comes to the town, Catherine, or is it split with the state in some way?
It's split.
Okay.
We don't get the full amount.
I was gonna say, I know I usually hop on and do the online permitting just because it's usually a last minute thing, like, oh, we have time and it's wet or it started raining, let's burn. And I don't always, want to bother the guys to have them come out and do a permit. So I can tell you, we get probably 8 of them a year. I
Right.
don't know what the split is, and that's just for us. So
All the income has been coming from you and we didn't
yeah,
know.
right. My own little donation to the town aside from my taxes, my burn permits.
Thank you.
But
But
yeah,
there- whoops, sorry.
go. Yep.
There were some statistics. I'll want to present them properly the next time we speak, but it did say that somehow it was saving the town. I don't know if it said like $2,100. My guess is that's because people go into the town office and they actually take the time to process all these things. So for a town that like us, maybe we don't do that as much, so it won't save us as much, but I think
Yeah,
for
I just
convenience all around,
Mhm.
and it does speak, that's what it was. It spoke to, like, Bernard can go on there instantly, like, say people are lighting off fireworks and you're like, oh, who has a fireworks permit? You log in and it will tell you the people that have it in the state, in Pittsfield. So if they're not on it, you know that you can go to that residence and, so the tracking of it might be a nice benefit too.
This is quite interesting. I knew about the burn permits because a lot of people use the online process. And then usually the people that have lived here all their lives will use the in-person process. But having the fireworks on there too is actually rather convenient.
Right. And all you do is, I mean, it sounds like like Westbrook, they set up the parameters, and if
Mhm,
it's not on those dates, you don't get it.
mhm.
So, I
wonder if
mean,
there's
for us, maybe it's a little different because maybe we'll, just allow it as long as they, do it. But it's nice that we can set up parameters anyway.
Mhm.
I wonder if there's a way to have the police department, either the chief or the sergeant or somebody, be a designated contact as well, so that if there are complaints filed, they would be able to log into the system to check those locations and everything as well. Because that was one thing where we're like, okay, if the fire department is issuing the permits, but the police are getting the complaints, then there has to be some interaction there. But if they can log on to a shared system, then it would certainly make it easier for enforcement, as well as just being well informed about what's upcoming that evening. And they can just respond to dispatch and say, well, this person has a permit, there's not an issue here.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah.
No, that's an excellent idea and would work well because when you rely on busy people who are part-time to always give information to other busy people who are part-time or full-time, there's going to be drops in which some of the information doesn't get around. So if there's a convenient system that everybody can log into, that would work really efficiently.
Hopefully that would, it's, and it's nice too. You can, it looks like you can basically upload your ordinance right to it. So
Mhm.
there's nobody that's kind of pleading ignorance to not knowing what it was. It's like,
Mhm.
Yeah,
well,
I think
it's right here. You read it when you got the permit. So
yeah, looking at the site, you have to like read that and then click
Click.
through
right.
to get to
Mhm.
the part where you sign in to get the permit. So
Yeah.
and I would think that you'd be able to put your fireworks stuff on there as well if you're doing both permitting on there.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's good. So do we want to leave this for tonight and leave it that right now Jason said he would continue following up maybe with Westbrook and maybe with Waterville to find out how they work with that. And Catherine, you'll ask Bernard
Yes.
about the site and what he thinks of it, if he's talked to other people that use it maybe, and can kind of give us some insight on that. The other, oh, I got too many notes here.
That's a good find, Jason. That looks like that might solve some of the administrative.
Yeah, because that was the biggest concern about going to this permitting, was actually the administrative part of it, and how do we actually walk through the logistics of it. And if that's the case, we wouldn't have to have exemptions. We would be able, MCI could just go on there and put their permit in at any time. Anytime if they change a game due to rain out or something like that, then they can just go on and get their permit. They don't even have to we can avoid the exemptions part of things altogether.
Right.
And those were the two big things, like the permitting part, and of course the red flag warning language. It sounds like we want to go more along the lines of the permitting language anyway, rather than having the coastal red flag high wind warning for sailors, mariners. So we can change that.
Yeah, I can edit that. I remember that was an issue, so I can change that, not a problem.
And I think they have standard language in the state permitting on the state burn permit website. They have some standard language there as far as when you can or can't. It's usually like class 3 or class 4 days or something like that that you can't or have winds. But I mean, they classify it for burning, so you might as well go with that.
Right. The only other thing was the gentleman that brought this up. I mean, if all they have to do is go on and get a permit and we're automatically giving it to them, technically those neighbors could light them off every weekend as long as they go get a permit. I mean,
yeah, this would not address those other concerns about distance to buildings, and that was the other the woman that had come in had that concern.
yeah, and I've seen the 2 or 3 that I looked at today. There were distances from 20 feet. Like you had to be outside of 20 feet from a building, which seems really close, to 150 feet, which, you know, in town, pretty unlikely that you will be able to get that far away from a building, which is probably a good thing, because that's those things can shoot off pretty high. So maybe that's the part that kind of covers him and his neighbors and whatnot. You know, if they're a standard type of lot size, I imagine his neighbor's not going to be able to get that far away from, say, his house or a structure within his property.
Do you think Bernard would be the one to follow up with on that and get a recommendation from him to use in the language that we could put into this as far as distance from buildings and what would be acceptable or a safer distance?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd be happy.
vast knowledge.
I'd be happy to contact Bernard or meet up with him or whatever. Or
Well,
you.
if Catherine's already talking to him
Yep,
about
that's fine, yeah.
the actual site and stuff, maybe that's
Sure.
something she can ask him about at the same time.
Yeah.
And then we can just incorporate that language into what's going to be on the permitting site if we go through with the permitting site part of it.
I can,
Maybe.
oh, go ahead. I can
Oh, sorry.
contact, go ahead.
Maybe I can, since we know there are a few things on there that automatically we want to change, maybe I can update the draft and send that back to you guys and you, Catherine, and then you take that new draft to Bernard, and that'll help me just weed out and kind of give him the latest and greatest, and then get his opinion on some of that stuff.
So if we're gonna go with the online for the permitting though, I think we'd want to have, like, because we did have the residents, you know, if they could get a permit every weekend, as you stated, we could limit that, just like we do like with the yard sale permits. So you have the state ones that allow you like the 4th of July, and then a resident could get up to, I don't know, whatever it is, 4 or 5 more permits throughout the year, and limit it to, you know, whatever we're going to limit to per resident.
Right. I think that's a pretty good idea.
And then that would take care of the being able to get a permit every weekend.
Right.
Do you know if that site has that functionality on it? Because it would have to be built into the site, otherwise.
Well, we could have it built into our ordinance, right? And our ordinance would be listed when they go to sign on for their permit.
But what would stop someone from just?
Oh,
signing
yeah,
for the permit
right, I got you.
anyway?
I
I mean,
think
that's what would happen, or they would just get a buddy and then be like, oh, my buddy's got the permit and I own the land that we had the permit last, you know, they'll like share the permits. I see what you mean though there about how often people are gonna be doing it.
Hopefully, I mean, we'd have to ask them, but ideally, it would just be based on, address.
Yeah,
So it doesn't matter who took it out on that address. If that address has come up into that site, say 3 times in the course of a year, sorry, your permit's denied or something.
If we can get a report, we can check on this. And the neighbors are gonna be calling if this starts up, and they know that you can only have 3 permits, and by the time, they get to 6 or 5, they're gonna be calling. So
Right.
there will be ways to check this, maybe not a formal way through the state website, which we can check and make sure that if there is or isn't, but we're gonna get information from others.
Sure.
one of the things on the state website and not being able to click through on this sign up form, but one of the things on the state website is it asks you if you've ever been convicted of
Mhm.
Felony.
accidentally starting a fire or something like some type of offense. It asks you on, and it might do that on this one too, but it's tough not being able to click through on the actual application.
Yeah.
But maybe it's something we put on there that they have to certify that they've had 4 or less permits. Maybe that's the way to do it. And then if they lie on it and get another one, then that's a violation of some kind that we would have to kind of deal with. But I
Right.
think the bigger concerns were the distance to the buildings. I don't remember her name, but the woman that came in and spoke with us said that there was just litter everywhere and on the buildings, on the cars, all over her yard from her neighbors. And having that distance, the distance part was the big thing for her, I think. And then the timing, the timing was the other thing. But we went to the state guidelines for the timing to 10 p.m., correct?
Yeah.
The state says 9 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Right.
So on the lady that had the damage, I still think that that's a police matter because, there was destruction of property and just such a lack of common sense. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could definitely be covered under littering if nothing else.
Littering or- yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
But
So I
I
think
mean, there's a large safety concern there. So,
Yes.
I mean, we put a
For sure.
distance in there. I certainly wouldn't want my neighbors lighting stuff off in my backyard. So, I mean, it's just a little bit of common sense, but I guess
That's why with the distance thing, that should pretty not totally alleviate it, but it would make it quite a bit better.
right. Yep. All right.
Okay. All right, so that sounds like we have a plan of action to look into the site, how it operates. Catherine will check with Bernard about his thoughts about using the site as well as the distance to the buildings.
Mhm.
Jason will check with were you gonna check with Waterville and, well, we'll just leave it that you're gonna check with towns that use the site and leave it at that. And then check into the site a little bit. One thing I think that would be good to know is whether there is an ability to build in that functionality of limiting any permits. My guess is it's not that sophisticated to be able to do that it just issues the permits and records them.
Right. I
And
mean, it does take off the link to fireworks. If it's outside of those standard dates, but it might not have the sophistication to say, oh, Heather, you've already done 4 of these.
Yeah.
Tough break. But
Yeah.
I can look into it and we'll see what it says.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, we'll see more about it next time, I guess. And do we want to have another meeting to kind of rehash this again? Or do we want to, I think we probably need to bring some cohesiveness to putting all these pieces of information together before it goes back to the council though.
Unfortunately, I think so.
Yeah.
Catherine, you want to add some more?
One quick question. If we could find out if the site can give us a written report, then each week we can go in and find out who got permits or see a running total of the permits, then we'll know if we have people that are going on there more times than what we've requested. Or if there are items that need to be researched for some reason, there's an issue where later on somebody calls in that things got set on fire at their house and we need to figure out where this started. So if there's a way a little report can be issued, or if we can just go in and see totals of everything.
I think that I'm gonna click back into it here. I think that there was a spot where the actual town fire officials could click into the system.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Then they can go in and look and see what's going on. Mhm.
Yeah, he can.
Yeah, warden's login. There's a spot here for warden's
Okay.
login. So that's where like administrators would be able to go in.
Mhm.
You would designate someone to do that, I would think. But again, you know, finding out what exactly, how much and what kind of information they can get
Mhm.
from that would be good. It'd also be good, Catherine, if there's a way to look in Trio or whoever that's recorded as far as how much revenue comes to the town for the fire permits.
It's a small amount of money. I can look that up easily. We get a check several months into the next year.
Okay, yeah, I had always thought that that money should go right to the fire department anyway, but I guess it goes into the general ledger.
It goes into the general ledger, but it's associated with the fire department. So if you run the cost center for fire department expenses and fire department revenues, it will be in the revenue part.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
All right, anything else we want to poke any more holes at this before we go on to the next item? We have about a half an hour, 29 minutes before the next meeting starts. Everybody comfortable going forward with that plan?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so the other item under no old business is noise and public conduct reviewed. I think we reviewed that just in looking
Mhm.
at the language for the fireworks, so I don't think there's anything else we need to do with that.
No, I didn't see
Okay.
anything.
Okay.
I didn't see anything.
New business and other ordinances or ordinance amendments. Is there anything, there isn't anything listed here, so I don't think there's anything that's been brought to us for that.
Correct. No, we have a list of items that are waiting for when we do put everything together and send it in. And then we have a variety of items that went to the planning board that are waiting for Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation to work on. And then we have some other items of interest that would be need research, such as a municipal ban on pesticide application, because that was rather complicated.
Did we all just freeze or is it?
I think you froze.
Unfortunately, Heather is froze.
Nope, she come
Okay.
back.
Where'd
There
she
she-
go?
Nope, here I am. So A, B, and C are all things that we've talked about and approved, and we're just waiting to add that in when we have like one big public hearing for things.
Mhm.
The rest of them, can we schedule a peak meeting, Catherine, so that we can start working on some of these items? I know it's busy in the budget season and everything, but I feel like we need to start plugging away at some of these things and
I
there's
did,
more items.
I did mention that to a number of the peak individuals, and getting everybody together at this point is going to be difficult. I would suggest that we get people working separately, perhaps, if they can't have a meeting. And I did give out packets of information to a couple of people that said that they would work on items. We don't quite have enough power going in the internet world.
She's locked up.
Yes.
Yep.
This is the one issue with using Zoom. It's wonderful for meetings, smaller meetings, not large ones. She'll be back.
You reboot.
Here we come. It's especially good when I meet with Annalise, instead of Annalise traveling all the way over here.
Yeah.
It works out really good.
Yeah, and it's not bad if people don't have their video on, it's not as much
That's
bandwidth.
right. Yes, that's true too. Mhm.
Which I guess if we're not voting on anything, it's not bad to not even have it on, but
Mhm.
So it seems like if I shut my video off, I can stay with you, but
Okay, no
this is why
problem.
I usually sit in the town office because the Wi-Fi here at the farm is not the best for this.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, so Peak can start plugging away at those things on that. The pesticide application is something that I was working on. There didn't seem to be much support from the for that.
breaking up. Can't hear you, Heather.
For the peak items, I think I can divide these up between people. I've got one person working on one ordinance, and I think that's the way we're gonna get it done, instead of everybody working on all of them. Divide them up and have people work on those and then bring them to a meeting.
Yeah,
All right, I'll set that in motion. I have one director working on items. I'll make sure the other directors work on items.
Thank you, Catherine.
she's back.
I am getting good at like clicking that link again. Yeah, so the municipal ban on pesticide application was something I was working on 2 years ago, I think. And it didn't really go anywhere. It didn't seem like there was much support from the council on it. But the biggest concern was like pesticide use in the park, specifically Manson Park, because it's our biggest park and it's so widely used by children and it's by the water. So that's kind of what generated those concerns. So the feeling you're working on, I have not done anything with it. Because nothing was done on it last year, and I think it was spring of 2019, maybe.
Yes, it's been a while.
Yeah.
And the animal waste item for offenses, we just have on there, just in case the issue comes back, because there was quite an issue. Then we spoke to a number of people and then the issue slowed down quite a bit.
So do we want to just leave those on there?
We left it on there as a reminder that, just to check into it once in a while.
Okay, why don't we do that then? We'll just keep them there. Does anybody have anything else?
No, I think once we
Nope.
get the fireworks ordinance in order, we'll be all set to go.
Okay. All right, so if we're all set with that, we can probably adjourn this committee meeting. And then Catherine, I think I'm going to run down to the town office if I can get in, and I'll sit in the hallway.
Yes, I
Um,
was gonna suggest that.
Yeah, this is not going to work tonight if I keep getting kicked off. So,
Mhm.
so
No, sometimes you've had very good, most of the time you've had very good luck, but yes, I'm actually gonna go down, and unlock the door so Amanda can get into.
Okay, great. I'll be down in a few minutes then.
All right, very good. Well, thank you all very much for making progress, and Jason, thank you. I think that electronic setup may be quite the solution for two things: the burn permits to make it more convenient for people and less cumbersome for the fire department, and then it may address, the fireworks items quite well. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Hope
I think
so.
that's a really great find, Jason. That's awesome.
Great, thanks.
All right, good. Thank you all so much. It looks like we are adjourning.
Okay, there we go. See you in a little while.
Hello again. I'm gonna go check on things and see where everybody is.
Sounds good.
Thank you.